Hello everyone, I'm going to show you how to lock your patterns down inside your shapes if you've drawn them. Right now I have two objects here. One is a rectangle that I've drawn and I've added a pattern. And then this one is a rectangle that I've drawn, added a pattern, and also turned into a live paint object. Now for a regular object that you draw, when you add a pattern and you move your square around, you'll notice that the pattern is already locked down in the background. But you can't lock your pattern down. Let's say you want to have your swatch. I want to show part of this little green star and part of this little orange flower arrangement. So I'm going to go over here. Now I want to lock it down. So to lock it down, I'm going to double click on this scale tool. And you have these two options here, transform objects and transform patterns. I'm going to click on transform patterns, hit OK, grab my selection tool, and now when I move my pattern box, it is locked down. To unlock it, I'm going to open up my scale tool. Again, we'll turn off transform patterns to just transform objects. Now, when I grab my selection tool, it's unlocked. Okay, so to lock this again, one more time, to lock it, double click on the scale tool. Click on transform patterns as well as objects, hit OK. Now grab your selection tool and the pattern is locked in. Now for an object that I've already turned into a live paint object, to unlock this pattern tile within this object shape, I'm going to double click on my scale tool to open up my scale panel. I'm going to uncheck transform pattern tiles and click OK. Now if I go back to my selection tool, you'll see my pattern is still locked down, but if I go to my direct select tool, you'll see that it is unlocked, and I can go and change where I want to focus my pattern within the swatch. Once I have something that I like, I can double click on my scale tool and I can lock it down. Additionally, if you want to scale your pattern down so that your motifs are visible, you can also open up your scale tool. And right here where it says scale, you can just scale it. I'm going to go down 50%. And it scaled my shape down 50%. So when you do this 50% scale, make sure you're doing your pattern only. So I'm going to turn off my object and do like a 50% pattern scale. Let's see what happens here. And my pattern went down 50%. So be careful, whatever numbers you have set in your uniform scale, every time you open it, your pattern will move by that percentage. So right now I have 150. If I were to double click my scale again, it'll keep going at 150. If I go down to 50%, I've scaled my pattern down to 50%. If I double click this again, watch my pattern. It goes down another 50. So I can bring this back to 100. It's a little screwy. I think it's a brand new tool. Adobe's still working it out, but that's what we have to do right now to get our patterns to scale and to move our patterns within our swatch. All right, I almost forgot about the croquis. So let's say you want to move this pattern around inside a croquis you've drawn. Now, if I grab my selection tool and grab my croquis, you can see that my pattern is locked down. So let's take a look at my scale tool and see what's going on with our patterns. We have transform object and transform patterns both selected. Now if I take off transform patterns off of my selection and hit OK, now when I grab my move tool, my selection tool, look what happens. Nothing. The pattern is still moving with my object. But if I go to my direct select tool, now look what happens. Now my pattern is unlocked. Direct select, unlocked, selection, locked. And then of course, when you want to reverse it, when you want to lock your pattern down, then you just reverse what you just did. So if I were to move this and say, okay, I want to have these yellow flowers like right by her hands, then I'll go back to my scale tool. We'll turn transform patterns back on. Now when I go to move my object, my pattern is once again locked down. Yeah, that's how you do it. Hope that makes sense. Bye-bye.